I'm filming this on the Lito X1 by DJI. It's an all-new, tiny but powerful drone, just jam-packed with features that are more impressive than a lot of the ones I find in my Air 3S, which is far more expensive. By the end of today's video, you're going to understand how to unlock everything when it comes to safety with this drone. I'm the Jonathan Ape, and this is opening up the Lito X1. All right, let's get our hats on straight here. The very first thing we're going to do is the little three dots on the top right. We're going to spend a lot of time in here. This opens up our menu. And on the top left, you're going to see the column safety, one of the most important ones probably in the whole video. Now, we're starting off with obstacle avoidance. And the Lito X1 has three different options with obstacle avoidance: bypass, brake, and off. The first one we're going to look at today is a brake, and what this does is when the drone gets close to an obstacle, it simply just comes to a stop and waits for you to take control over it, proceeding to a safe area and carrying on with your flight. It's by far the safest option out of the three, but when we move over into bypass, you're going to see there's two different options: normal and nifty. With bypassing, when the drone gets close to an obstacle, it's going to find a path around it so that it can keep fluid, keep that film rolling. And the difference between normal and nifty is normal's a little bit of a safer option, whereas nifty, it might take a few more risks. But careful with nifty. DJI even puts out a little disclaimer that you might crash. So for me and my DJI drones, I use 99% of the time the bypass with a nifty setup, and I haven't had really any problems with it at all. But there are some tips I have here for the obstacle avoidance. And the first one is you can get some pretty annoying noises out of the remote when you're using it when you get too close to an obstacle. So in order to get rid of that, all you have to do is swipe down from the top of your screen, and you're gonna see a mute button and a volume slider. You can either slide that volume down or you just tap that mute button and you're gonna get that noise gone. And if you're really hating on the radar map that you see on the remote itself, there's also a way to shut that one off, and that's going back into the three-dot menu, and here you'll find display radar map. If you turn that off, you're going to lose those orange and yellow boomerangs that are around showing you where the obstacles are. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you can do that. And the other tip I have for obstacle avoidance is in the top right of your remote, there is a quick access. There's a little radar looking thing up there, and if you tap that, you get instant access to your three different settings. Now, the obstacle avoidance is super important, and it's something that you should predetermine whether you're going to set it up before you even go flying. And another thing that's even more important to set up before we fly is the return to home, which we're going to check out right now. The Lito X has some powerful return to home features, and I was super surprised to see one of them on there, something I don't even have on my Air 3S. When you set sail with the Lito X1, you're getting the same quality return to home features that DJI offers in its bigger brother, the Mini 5 Pro. Return to home will bring the drone back to the launch point or another designated point that we have control over. But the first thing you need to know is that there are two different ways the drone can return home. And the first one is preset. When we choose this mode, we need to be certain of two things. We need to know what the highest obstacle is that the drone might encounter on its solo journey home. And we also need to be aware of the maximum altitude that we are legally allowed to fly in the area we are flying. This is because with preset, we need to set the altitude the drone will return at. And the way it works is the drone will fly up to the height we set, navigate directly back to the home point, and then descend straight down for a landing. So we want to make sure that we clear any obstacles or buildings while also making sure we do not break any altitude limits. The other option, and the one I use almost all the time, is Optimal. With Optimal, the drone uses its LiDAR and vision systems to sort of build a map on its way out, and then when you ask it to return home, it follows that safer path back. And this is especially helpful in low-light situations or when there's a lot of overhead obstacles and the drone may not be able to descend straight down, like here in the forest. Yeah, there it goes. It's pretty handy to have. I think it's just amazing that technology like this exists, and DJI giving it to us in the Lito X1 at such an affordable price point is something I'm struggling to wrap my head around. One of my favorite features on the Lito X1 is the ability to use a dynamic home point, something the Air 3S doesn't have. As we scroll further down into the menu, we find Update Home Point, and in here we can see that we can manually update it to a static home point by using either the aircraft's location or the controller location. But by far the best return to home feature is in Dynamic Home Point. And what this does is it will automatically update the home point from the location of the remote. And you can tell when this is being used because that yellow home point will turn blue. This comes in especially handy if you're tracking something like a vehicle or a boat. It's a powerful feature and something that I am super happy that they put into the X1. In the AR or auto return settings, there are a few more options for customization. Here we can get rid of the yellow home point displayed on the screen, turn off the green flight path marker, which I think is really cool, and also turn off the aircraft shadow. The aircraft shadow is a display that shows exactly where the drone would land if it landed from its current position. It's also really handy for making the perfect center point if you were trying to do one of those rotating straight down shots. So now that you understand the different types of return to home, it's super important that before we even fly, we go down in that menu and we find the advanced safety settings. And in there, we're gonna be able to set what the drone's gonna do if it loses contact with our remote controller. Now, there's different ways we can do this. We can either set it as a return to home, we can set it to descend, or we can set it to hover. And you might be wondering why we would ever in the world want it to not return to home, why we might want it to descend, or why we might want it to hover. Well, here's an example flying in this forest with this canopy, what might happen if you were trying to return to home. The drone is going to fly up and into the trees and it's going to crash. So in a situation like this, I would be setting it to hover, so if I lose contact I can just walk through and find it. All right, so it's tip time again. Now I've got 4 tips for ensuring an accurate return to home. Tips that I've learned over the years from all of my flying. And the first one is, if you use something like a launch pad, the drone seems to just know where to go. And I use one of these portable pads. I take it with me a lot of the time. Even if you don't have one of these and you've just got some kind of a marker, if you're taking off from something that the drone can recognize, that seems to help a lot. And another one is that if you ascend with the drone to about 6 to 8 meters, 7 meters is the number I look for, and I leave it hover there for about 30 seconds, I think the drone gets a better idea of where the home point is, and it might even be using its vision sensors and obstacle avoidance stuff to just know where it is. So that's where it's going to come back to. Another tip that I have for returning to home is to make sure that your antennae are facing the right direction. And that is that the flat parts of the antenna should be facing the drone. Don't have them folded in like this, and don't have them pointing towards the drone like this. And the last thing is to calibrate often. There's going to be some prompts throughout your flying where it's going to ask you for a calibration. I don't think that you should wait for those prompts. What I found is that the more I calibrate, the less issues I have. And I might do some calibrating if I'm going out and doing a bunch of flights for the day. I'm going to calibrate first thing in the morning. If I just haven't flown the drone for a month and I pull it out of the closet, I'm going to be calibrating before I fly. So those 4 tips should help ensure an accurate return to home. We're going to touch on calibrating in just a minute, but before the calibration section, we see flight protection. It's pretty straightforward. With max altitude, you can set the limit anywhere up to 500 meters, and the drone will not voyage beyond that boundary. Max distance tethers your drone to a set distance away from you. I leave mine set to no limit, but keep in mind the line of sight rule when you're flying. So for this one, we're gonna have some fun. I've got it set to sport mode and everything's cranked up. We're gonna see how long it takes to get to 120 meters. 3, 2, 1. And yes, that is still ice on the lake back there. I'm filming this on May 11th. What a winter we had. And there, 18 seconds. That's pretty good. And as promised, if we slide down a bit further, we see the calibration section. There are 2 main calibrations here, compass normal and IMU normal. First off is the compass, and this one is super easy. We just follow the prompts on the screen and do some rotating of the drone while holding it. What this is doing is helping the drone understand which direction it's facing. Just like a regular compass tells you north, south, east, and west, The drone's compass helps it know its heading. Now this matters for things like hovering accurately, flying straight, and most importantly, returning home properly. Then we have IMU, and that stands for Inertial Measurement Unit, which is just a fancy way of saying the sensors that help the drone understand how it's sitting and moving. For this one, we fold up the arms and find a flat surface. Then we follow the prompts and simply place the drone on each one of its sides on a flat surface. The IMU helps the drone understand if it's tilted forward, backward, leaning sideways, or sitting flat, and it helps measure the movement and rotation. So if your drone is drifting or wandering or just hovering weird, before you go badgering the good folks at DJI, go in there and that's where you're going to find the calibration. It's probably going to fix it, and it makes a great deal of difference for returning home. Now underneath that in the menu, we're going to see fold out to power on, and what that does is with this Lito X1, when you unfold the arms, it's going to fire up. And we can choose whether or not we want that. Usually I leave my power folding arms off because I can press this button fairly simple. It's given me trouble before, and when I was trying to do the IMU calibration, you'll notice when I folded the arms in the first time, it shut off on me, and that's because it was arms off to power down. And it requested for me to fold the arms in when I was doing the calibration. So the opposite of folding them out, folding them in will turn the drone off. If we slide on down a little bit more, we get into the battery information, which is some really good stuff. Here we can see the battery cell status, the voltage of each cell, the total battery voltage, battery temperature, and serial number. But the big thing I like to look at here is the cycle count. This basically tells you how many times the battery has been charged and discharged. If you're buying a used drone, this is definitely something worth checking out. And then underneath batteries, we have Unlock GEO Zones. This is where DJI shows your account and aircraft unlocking licenses. So basically, if you have permission to fly in a restricted or controlled area, this is where those unlocks would show up. So God forbid you lose your drone or crash it while you're out flying, but it does happen. It happened to me last November in Bali. But the good news is that DJI's got a built-in answer for that inside of the remote here. It's Find My Drone. It's very similar to Find My Phone. And when you go inside of it, you're going to see a map of the whole area you're around. It's going to show where you are and where your drone last gave a signal. And once you start honing in, getting close to it, you can tap the beep and alarm button, and it's going to make an audible noise, and it's going to start flashing its lights and buzzing its motors and all that good stuff so that you can find it. So the last area I'm going to talk about in safety is an advanced safety, and that is the auto kill. It's going to just kill the props, and this is how it works. You hold the joysticks down and in, or you hold the joysticks down and out, and what's supposed to happen is that it kills the props dead. So no matter where you're flying, it's going to do it. Now there's two settings for it: anytime and emergency only. And I've got mine set to emergency only. I don't understand how the drone would know if it's an emergency or not. I don't know how it works. I've never tried to hit those sticks while I'm flying, and I don't think I ever am going to try. But if you have tried, let me know down in the comments. Now that we've got all that safety stuff out of the way, it's time that we get the drone up and do some flying. So with the Lito X1, there are 3 different ways that we can do this. The first method is by hitting your joysticks down and in, and what that's going to do is fire up the props, and it's going to get ready and armed for you to take off. And you can stop the props by holding them down again. It's working. Now the next method, and by far the most popular, is by tapping the little arrow here on the screen, and you're going to have a takeoff circle come up, and if you hold on that, it's going to lift off. It's just going to fire up, and it's going to hover to, it's very close to me. That's how that works. And the third option that we have is by hitting that arrow again, and when you get the little circle and takeoff, you just hold the C1 button. And that way you can do it one-handed, you don't have to worry. That works very well for hand launching your drone. So that does it for the safety section. I've got to get to work on making the controller. You stupid birds. You damn birds.